In 1940, Britain packed its entire fortune, gold bars, bearer bonds, the lifeline of an empire, onto ships bound for the Atlantic, sailing straight into U-boat territory. Bankers in London wept. Generals called it madness, but Churchill signed the order anyway. So how did billions in gold cross an ocean ruled by German submarines and vanish beneath Canada's streets? Let's uncover the truth. When a nation packs its fortune and sails into danger, what follows? In the summer of 1940, Britain faced the edge of collapse. German bombers darken the skies, France falls, and invasion feels hours away. Inside London's treasury, officials count gold bars and bearer bonds like lifeboats. Every ounce could decide whether Britain survived another month. The plan sounded insane, yet strangely logical. Move the empire's fortune across an ocean crawling with U-boats. They called it Operation Fish. Crates stamped FISH leave London in convoys bound for Canada. The first shipment, carried by HMS Emerald, sailed from Greenock on the 24th of June 1940 under absolute silence. On board lies gold, negotiable securities, and the hopes of a nation. A week later, the ship reaches Halifax, battered by Atlantic storms but intact. The gold moves by guarded train to Ottawa, the securities to Montreal. Beneath the Sun Life building, a vault 3 floors down becomes the new heart of the British Empire's economy. The operation builds on groundwork set the previous year. In September 1939, the British Treasury ordered every resident to register private securities. That database now maps the wealth being shipped out. Once in Canada, the gold backs the pound. The securities are liquidated in New York, turning paper into dollars for food, ships, and weapons. In the end, paperwork becomes Britain's most powerful weapon. By 5th July 1940, another convoy departed, carrying wealth valued around $1.7 billion US, more than 470 million pounds in gold, and 1,250 million pounds in securities. It becomes the largest physical transfer of wealth in history. Halifax rail yards groan under wooden crates as accountants double-check serials and counts. Above ground, Montreal office workers sip coffee, unaware that billions rest beneath their shoes. Every shipment reaches its destination. No torpedoes hit, no bar vanishes, and no journalist finds the trail. The miracle hides in the monotony: ledgers, padlocks, and patience. Operation Fish runs perfectly because it looks boring. Yet behind the paperwork lies a deeper question. Why Canada, and why so secret? The answer lives in strategy, distance, and trust. The next chapter explains why the ocean, filled with danger, became the safest vault on Earth. If Canada becomes the vault of an empire, what risks make that logical? From the start of 1939, London already feared invasion. So officials quietly asked the Bank of Canada a strange question: can you hold our gold? Canada sits far from Luftwaffe range, guarded by Allied fleets, and connected to North America's markets. It has vaults deep enough to hide an empire's fortune. Therefore, it becomes Britain's backup treasury before the first bomb falls. The plan feels like chess on a global board. Halifax offers a short, well-guarded rail route inland. At night, trains roll in silence, each wagon carrying crates of bullion or sealed documents. Guards with rifles watch every stop. When the trains split, gold goes to Ottawa's underground vaults, securities to Montreal's Sun Life building, where the RCMP keeps 24-hour watch. 3 floors down, bankers recorded every serial number by hand. The goal is simple: keep the metal untouched while selling the paper fast in New York to pay for war supplies. Sea travel remains the true gamble. German U-boats rule the Atlantic, sinking ships weekly. Yet somehow treasure convoys arrive untouched. Records shows that not a single shipment was lost. The secret lies in tactics. Lightning-fast cruisers like HMS Emerald, strict radio silence, and using North Atlantic fog as cover. Bad weather becomes their shield. Therefore, fortune travels through chaos unseen. By late 1940, the scale was astonishing. Thousands of crates, hundreds of clerks, and countless nights of secret work. The securities stored in Montreal are gradually sold, turning into cash that keeps factories running and soldiers armed. Meanwhile, the public knows nothing. For decades, the story stays buried under ledgers and routine office life. Even today, the Sun Life Building's history acknowledges that millions walked above Britain's hidden wealth during the war. An ordinary office tower became the empire's steel vault. The logic worked only as long as no one talked, but secrecy carries its own risks. Moving that much value through a war zone invites one final question. How did they keep every convoy invisible while the ocean burned? The next chapter sails with the men who pulled it off. If U-boats owned the Atlantic, how did the treasure cross? The summer of 1940 turns the Atlantic into a graveyard. Ships vanish weekly, and German U-boats hunt anything flying the Union Jack. Yet through those same deadly waters, Britain sends its entire financial heart. Gold bars, securities, and bonds worth billions. The risk is insane, but the alternative is worse: losing the war. The first treasure run started on 24th June 1940. The cruiser HMS Emerald leaves Greenock, Scotland under blackout. No wireless messages, no lights, just silence and faith. The holds below her decks are stacked with sealed wooden crates, each one packed with gold or bearer bonds. 7 days later, battered by storms but untouched by torpedoes, she reached Halifax on the 1st of July 1940. The cargo splits. Bullion to Ottawa, securities to Montreal. No press, no parades, just paperwork and armed police on the docks. A second convoy followed on July 5, 1940, carrying an estimated $1.7 billion, the largest shipment of wealth ever attempted at that point. Among them sails the Polish liner Batory, engines failing in fog and iceberg waters. She drifts, a perfect target, then somehow limps into Halifax days later. The record shows something remarkable. Through the entire operation, not a single treasure ship was lost to U-boats or weather. The reasons are a mix of skill, luck, and discipline. The convoys move fast, guarded by cruisers like HMS Revenge, and every captain sails under strict radio silence. German subs rely on direction finding, so no transmissions mean no targets. The North Atlantic's violent storms do the rest, brutal to both hunters and hunted. Britain also splits the risk. Smaller loads, multiple routes, tight secrecy. Few men ever know the full scale of what's being moved. When the ships reach land, the story stays just as secret. Halifax rail platforms fill with thousands of crates under RCMP guard. Trains move at night, gold to the Bank of Canada vaults in Ottawa, securities to the Sun Life Building in Montreal. There, a new vault waits underground, ready to swallow the Empire's paper fortune. So, the treasure survives the crossing untouched, but the sea leg is only half the mystery. The real question now moves inland. Where does the Empire's wealth actually sleep once it's safe? When the gold reached Canada, who guarded the Empire's heartbeat? Picture Montreal in 1940. Streetcars rattle down Dorchester Square. Office workers rush to their desks. Coffee brews upstairs. And 3 floors below, the financial lifeblood of the British Empire sits behind steel doors. At Halifax, the gold and securities are sorted the moment they land. Armored trains roll out, bullion to Ottawa, paper wealth to Montreal. In Ottawa, the Bank of Canada takes the gold, sealing bar after bar in underground chambers. In Montreal, builders rush to finish a vault beneath the Sun Life Building, 3 stories down. It becomes the United Kingdom security deposit, guarded by the RCMP 24 hours a day. The system runs like a machine. Coded ledgers, separate keys for every lock, and guards on every door. Above ground, life goes on. Around 5,000 Sun Life employees keep working through the war, unaware of the secret below their feet. Inside the vault, clerks verify and sort bonds worth billions. The paper is sold quietly in New York, turning it into dollars for food, aircraft, and fuel. Gold remains untouched in Ottawa as the last emergency reserve. Therefore, a basement in Montreal becomes Britain's financial engine, disguised as an ordinary office building. Details later confirmed by historians sound almost cinematic: repurposed steel from rail lines, guards armed around the clock, and locks requiring 2 separate bankers to open. Halifax platforms see thousands of boxes. Ottawa clerks check every serial number twice. Montreal accountants work through the night in silence. According to public records, no losses, no leaks, and no thefts ever occur. The Axis learns nothing. The numbers remain staggering. 470 million pounds in gold, 1.25 billion pounds in securities, equal to tens of billions today. Together, they make up the largest recorded transfer of wealth in human history. Proof of its success still stands. A plaque at Liverpool's Martin's Bank marks the gold's journey, and the Sun Life building now embraces its wartime secret. The Atlantic crossing secured Britain's future. The Canadian vault kept it breathing. But that raises the next question. How long could this hidden system keep a nation alive without the world ever knowing? In July 1940, Halifax looked like any other port town on the edge of war, except the freight under guard could buy entire fleets. The first treasure ship from Operation Fish drops anchor on July 1st, and by sunset, soldiers and police surround the docks. Thousands of wooden crates marked fish pile up, each holding gold bars or bearer bonds. They're labeled, counted, and loaded onto trains. But those trains move only after dark. Every car is armored. Bullion to Ottawa, securities to Montreal. The public sees nothing. Even the crews running the locomotives receive vague paperwork. Cargo listed as government materials. Halifax becomes the starting line of the biggest hidden shipment in history. In Ottawa, the Bank of Canada swallows gold at an almost mechanical rhythm. By war's end, around 1,400 tons of gold sat beneath Ottawa. Retired bankers are called back to weigh, stack, and log every single bar. Each one has a serial number tied to a London ledger. The vault ran like a heartbeat, constant, quiet, and unbroken. Meanwhile, Montreal handles the paper. Crates full of bonds and securities descend 3 floors under the Sun Life building, into a room that looks more like a fortress than a vault. The RCMP guarded it day and night. The United Kingdom Security Deposit sorts, verifies, and ships securities for sale in New York. The goal: turn paper into dollars for planes, tanks, and food. The security system sounds paranoid but works perfectly. Sources describe dual locks, microphones to detect drilling, and steel plates repurposed from Canadian rail lines. No one man holds all the keys. Upstairs, 5,000 employees type away, unaware that the empire's entire financial pulse beats beneath them. Numbers reveal the scale. 470 million pounds in gold reaches Ottawa. 1.25 billion pounds in securities rests below Montreal, together worth tens of billions today. And through every convoy, every crossing, not one crate goes missing. The vault hums. Wall Street buys. Ships keep sailing. The story now shifts from movement to meaning. How long could Britain keep fighting from a fortune buried under another country's feet? When the war ends, where does a secret like this go? When the guns fell silent in 1945, the paperwork kept moving. Victory parades fill the streets, but in Ottawa and Montreal, the clerks keep their routines. The vault doors stay shut, the ledgers stay busy. For nearly 5 years, the system that fed Britain's war machine still hums beneath the surface. From 1941 to 1944, the Montreal strongroom operated like a factory. Each day, securities are checked, endorsed, and sent for sale through New York banks. The money circles back to Britain in the form of aircraft, ammunition, and food. Gold in Ottawa stays untouched, a reserve of last resort. Therefore, the empire fights on borrowed value, flowing invisibly through Canada. Every record shows precision. No missing crates, no leaks, no sabotage. Halifax handles arrival after arrival. Ottawa organizes thousands of bars into order. Montreal keeps the cash flowing. Later reports call Operation Fish the largest movement of physical wealth in history, and the label fits. It wasn't a single act. It was a constant rhythm that lasted years. The convoys themselves become legends. The first major sailing, HMS Emerald, leaves on 24th June 1940 and reaches Halifax a week later. Others follow, including the Polish liner Battery, which limps through fog and ice but arrives safely. The statistic remains unmatched. Every treasure convoy arrives intact, 0 losses to U-boats or storms. Somehow, the Atlantic, then the deadliest stretch of ocean on Earth, lets the one cargo Britain cannot afford to lose pass through untouched. After the war, the system slowly winds down. The gold stays under the Bank of Canada until peace agreements and repatriation plans return it home. The securities are liquidated as accounts close and reconstruction begins. The Sun Life building eventually acknowledges its hidden role. Today, plaques and museum exhibits in both countries tell the story of the empire's underground heart. Operation Fish ends quietly but leaves a paradox. Britain saves itself by sending away its fortune, then wins the war with the money it hid beneath another flag. The last image isn't a ship at sea, but a clerk in Montreal stamping a sail that buys one more day of freedom. History hides its greatest stories in plain sight. Click the next video on your screen right now. Another secret waits, and it might change how you see the war forever.